The autumn sun warms my face as I walk toward my mailbox, golden light filtering through maple leaves that dance in the October breeze. My hand trembles slightly as I pull out my phone, tapping the notification that's been burning in my pocket all morning. The university seal appears, followed by formal text that blurs before my eyes. Congratulations, Ella Whitmore. Based on your exemplary academic record, we are pleased to inform you that you have been selected as valedictorian. My knees weaken. 4 years of perfect grades flash before me: the all-night study sessions, the shifts at the campus bookstore, the weekends spent writing papers while friends went to football games. All those moments when I chose work over rest because my parents wouldn't cover what my partial scholarship didn't. 1 BS. And now this. Before I can think better of it, my finger hovers over my parents' contact. Despite everything, despite the years of disappointments, my heart pounds with renewed hope. They have to care about this. They have to. The phone rings 4 times before clicking to voicemail. My mother's cheerful voice plays the familiar greeting. You've reached Robert and Linda Whitmore. We can't come to the phone right now. I lower myself onto the bench outside my apartment building, gaze drifting to the wall visible through my open door. Photos I've carefully framed hang in a neat row: my high school honors ceremony with 2 conspicuously empty chairs in the family section, my college acceptance letter that I celebrated with my roommate instead of my parents, my sophomore year journalism awards ceremony, where Professor Jenkins sat where my father should have been. My mind drifts back to 6 years ago. I stood on stage at 17, the heavy academic decathlon state champion medal hanging around my neck. My eyes scanned the audience seats where my parents promised they'd sit. Front row, center section. The plastic chairs remained empty throughout the entire ceremony. Principal Garfield's hand on my shoulder felt like pity as I accepted the medal alone. The following weekend, I overheard my mother on the phone with my aunt. Madison was just wonderful in the junior varsity exhibition. You should have seen how proudly she waved those pom-poms. Robert recorded the whole thing. Their voices carried from downstairs, bright with enthusiasm they never showed for my achievements. While they drove Madison to dance competitions across 3 states, I sat alone at our kitchen table, surrounded by college brochures, scholarship applications, and financial aid forms. My careful handwriting filled page after page, no parent's signature in the spots marked guardian. Now, I pull myself up from the bench and walk to my desk. My calligraphy pens, a splurge from my first bookstore paycheck, lie in their wooden case. I select the finest nib, dip it in ink the color of midnight, and begin addressing formal invitations on thick cream paper. The graduation ceremony details flow from my pen in elegant curves and precise lines. 2 hours later, my roommate is driving my ancient Honda to my parents' suburb, invitation in hand. My mother answers the door in workout clothes, surprise crossing her features before she calls for my father. Ella, this is unexpected, she says, voice rising at the end like a question. I hold out the invitation, the envelope weighty in my palm. I wanted to deliver this personally. I'm valedictorian. My father appears behind her, half listening as he checks his watch. That's wonderful, honey. The ceremony is next month, I continue, my voice steadier than I expect. There's a special section reserved for valedictorian families. Thanks for watching. They exchange glances before my mother takes the envelope, nodding. Of course we'll be there. We wouldn't miss it, she says with the casual confidence of someone making promises they don't value. I swallow hard, the words I've rehearsed finally breaking free. It would mean everything to have you there. I've earned this moment. My father nods distractedly, already pulling out his phone. Let me check something. His fingers move quickly over the screen. Madison has a college recruitment weekend for cheer around then. What were the dates again? They exchange another glance, a silent communication perfected over years. My mother's eyes shift back to me with practiced brightness. We'll make it work, sweetie. From the doorway to the kitchen, I sense movement. Hannah, my roommate since freshman year, watches the familiar scene unfold. She drove me here after I admitted my hands were shaking too badly to manage the steering wheel alone. In her eyes, I see recognition of a pattern I still can't fully acknowledge: the dance of hope and disappointment I've performed since childhood. I straighten my shoulders, clutching my car keys tightly enough to leave indentations on my palm. This graduation, this speech, my final attempt to win their meaningful attention. After this, I'll be gone to New York, to graduate school, to a life where I won't need to beg for the recognition I've earned. But not yet. Not quite yet. 3 days before graduation, My phone vibrates against my desk. Dad's name appears on the screen, sending a ridiculous flutter of hope through my chest. It's been 2 weeks since I delivered their invitation. "Hey, Dad," I answer, keeping my voice deliberately casual. "Ella," he says, his tone flat. "Listen, your mother and I have been talking." I sink onto my bed, fingers tightening around the phone. Something in his voice makes my stomach twist. "We've been so busy with Madison's college visits," he continues, words flowing faster. "All these cheer recruitment weekends, you know how it is. Honestly, we're just too tired to make the trip." My body slides down until I'm sitting on the floor, back pressed against the wall. My lips form words without my brain's involvement. "I understand." "That's my girl, always so reasonable." Relief colors his voice. "We'll catch the live stream. Promise." After hanging up, I remain motionless, nodding mechanically as if he can still see me. The next morning, bleary from another sleepless night, I scroll through Instagram while waiting for coffee to brew. A splash of color catches my attention. Mom's account rarely updates, but there's a new post from yesterday. The timestamp makes me freeze. 2:13 p.m. Mom and Madison, holding champagne flutes aloft, identical smiles beneath identical sunglasses. The caption reads, "Much needed mother-daughter spa day. Treat yourself." I swipe to the next photo. Dad joining them at an upscale restaurant downtown, Madison between them, all three laughing. Timestamp, 5:47 p.m. During his call. Not before, not after. This isn't about being tired. It's a choice, the same one they've always made. Later, I find myself in the university library bathroom, locked in the furthest stall, phone in my trembling hands. Years of family photos fill my screen as I scroll backward through time. The pattern emerges with painful clarity. In every image, Madison stands centered, my parents leaning toward her like plants seeking sunlight. I exist at the edges when I appear at all, the half face behind a shoulder, the blur of movement, often the one taking the photo. I keep scrolling, methodically noting dates. My high school graduation. Parents absent due to Madison's regional cheer competition. My journalism award. Parents visiting Madison at cheer camp. My 18th birthday. Parents at Madison's summer showcase. The bathroom door creaks open. "Ella?" Daniel's voice echoes against the tile. "Hannah said you might be in here." "Women's restroom," I call back, voice steadier than I feel. "Nobody else is here. Can I come in?" When I don't answer, his footsteps approach my stall. Through the gap, I see him slide down to sit on the floor, back against the opposite wall. "I did some research," he says quietly. 11 Instagram posts. Your parents celebrated 11 of Madison's achievements on days you had comparable ones they missed. I unlock the stall door with numb fingers. Daniel looks up, his expression gentle but unflinching. "They've never seen you clearly, Ella," he says. "It's not because you weren't worth seeing." The words land like a physical blow. Truth spoken aloud transforms from suspicion to reality. Walking across campus later, Daniel beside me, I voice the question that's been circling my mind. What happens if I just accept it again? Keep the peace? "You preserve the illusion of family harmony," he answers, "and lose another piece of yourself." But if I challenge them now, my voice catches. I risk losing what little connection we have. Hannah meets us at the coffee shop, sliding into the booth with her usual directness. "You're spiraling again." "What's the point of accomplishing anything if the people who should care most don't notice?" I ask, stirring my untouched coffee. She places her hand over mine, stilling the anxious movement. "Your graduate school scholarship depends on graduating with honors. That journalism program in New York is your ticket out. This is your last chance to speak your truth before leaving their orbit completely." That evening, Daniel arrives at my door carrying 2 cardboard boxes. "Found these at your parents' house last time I helped you move stuff. You never unpacked them." Inside, family albums from my childhood. I spread them across my floor, tracking the visual evidence of my gradual erasure. In the earliest photos, before Madison was born, I occupied the center of every frame, my parents' arms wrapped securely around me. After her birth, the shift subtle at first, then unmistakable as I was edged toward the margins, eventually disappearing altogether. As I flipped through those old albums that night, seeing how things changed after Madison came along, I faced a choice that many of you might recognize. Do I give my graduation speech as written safe, grateful, Forgettable, or do I finally speak the truth about invisibility in my own family? Keeping the peace seemed easier, but at what point does silence become a form of self-betrayal? The morning of my graduation breaks with cruel perfection, sunlight streaming through my dorm window, highlighting the cap and gown hanging on my closet door. My phone chimes with a notification, the sound now triggering an instinctive tightening in my chest. I tap the screen with resignation. My parents' Instagram post appears. So proud of Madison securing that prestigious summer internship at Coastal Marketing. Our girl continues to amaze us. Number proud parents, number future leader. Posted 30 minutes ago. On my graduation morning. The text from mom arrives as I'm brushing my teeth. Toothpaste foam bitter on my tongue. We'll watch the live stream if we can. Send us photos. If they can. As if my graduation competes with grocery shopping or a casual lunch, I spit into the sink, watching the white foam spiral down the drain like my expectations. Hannah appears in the bathroom doorway, already dressed in her graduation gown. Your sister's calling, she says, holding out my phone like it might bite her. I wipe my mouth and take the call, pressing the speaker button as I continue getting ready. Ella! I'm trying to decide which outfit looks best in photos. Madison's voice fills the small bathroom. The coral sundress or the white one with the belt. I need to look perfect for my Instagram post about your thing. Your thing. Hannah mouths silently, exchanging a knowing glance with Daniel, who appears behind her with coffee. The coral. I answer mechanically. Madison, I have to finish getting. Perfect. That's what I was thinking too. I'm going to tag it number proud sister. Should I mention your validating or whatever it's called? Valedictorian, I correct, my voice tight. Right, that. Okay, gotta run. The call ends. Minutes later, Dad's text arrives. Congrats on being valedictorian. Your mother and I are proud. He couldn't even spell it correctly. Daniel hands me the coffee, his fingers lingering against mine. You okay? I nod, but we both know it's a lie. The truth lives in the shadows under my eyes. Evidence of another sleepless night. 3 pounds lost this month alone. The new stutter that emerges whenever family discussions arise, something my body created when my mind couldn't process any more disappointment. Did you pick up my graduation announcement? I ask, hating the way my tongue betrays me. Yesterday, Daniel confirms, and I added the extra 50 copies you ordered, though I still don't understand why. Because they promised to help with expenses, I say, voice sharper than intended, just like they promised to help with tuition, with books, with housing. Each broken promise stacks like bricks on my shoulders. I picked up an extra shift at the bookstore to cover it. Hannah frowns. That's your 3rd extra shift this week. When did you sleep? I gesture toward my desk, where 2 versions of my valedictorian speech sit side by side, between drafts. The safe version thanks the university, mentions supportive family in generic terms, offers inspirational platitudes about future success. The honest version, the one I revise at 3 a.m. when truth feels less dangerous, speaks of invisibility, of achievement as desperate currency, of learning self-worth when external validation never comes. Dr. Mercer, my academic advisor, stopped me after our final meeting last week. You seem different, she said, her eyes searching mine. My office is always open, even after graduation. I thanked her politely and hurried away before she could see the tears threatening. Another offer of support I didn't know how to accept. 2 nights ago, Daniel found me asleep at a library table, surrounded by discarded speech drafts. Each version more honest than the last, each one more likely to burn bridges I'm not sure I can afford to lose. You don't have to protect them anymore, he whispered as he gathered the papers, thinking I was still asleep. They haven't earned it. The morning passes in a blur of bobby pins and uncomfortable shoes. Hannah appears at my side as I adjust my cap, holding a small velvet box. I was going to save this for after, she says, opening it to reveal a delicate silver pendant. But I think you need it now. The pendant gleams in the morning light, words engraved in flowing script. Your truth matters. Tears blur my vision as Hannah fastens it around my neck. First graduation gift? I manage, touching it gently. Just so you know, Hannah adds with a sudden grin, I bought balcony tickets to this speech, front row for whatever version you decide to give. We laugh, the sound strange and light in a room that's held so much heaviness. In the preparation room before the ceremony, I sit alone, both speeches laid out before me. The safe version, neat, pristine, inoffensive. The honest version, crossed out, rewritten, coffee-stained, alive with truth. Daniel slips in, closing the door quietly behind him. Which version are you giving today? I stare at the papers, at 4 years of perfect grades and empty seats. I've spent my whole life being the agreeable daughter who never caused waves. I say slowly, what has it gotten me? Daniel doesn't answer. Instead, he places my phone beside the speeches, open to my parents' latest post-champagne glasses raised at a luxury spa, time-stamped an hour ago. Just relaxing before watching our girl's big moment on live stream, number self-care. Something shifts inside me, tectonic plates realigning. I pick up the safe speech and tear it cleanly in half, the sound sharp and final in the quiet room. I meet my reflection in the mirror, surprised to find my gaze steady, my voice clear and stutter-free for the first time in weeks. They can ignore me, but they can't make me invisible to myself anymore. Outside, Hannah has worked miracles. Mrs. Polanski and Mr. Winters, elderly neighbors from my hometown who watched me grow up, sit proudly in the family section. They wave when they spot me peeking through the curtain. Daniel moves efficiently through the auditorium, checking camera angles, ensuring the live stream captures not just the podium but the reserved family seats, 3 chairs marked with a prominent Whitmore family sign, painfully empty under the bright lights. Professor Jenkins, who became my mentor after I took her investigative journalism course, quietly moves her husband and daughter to make room in the special faculty section, leaving an open spot beside her with my name. The contrast strikes me like physical pain, strangers and chosen family filling spaces. My biological family left empty, their absence more present than they've ever been. My hand finds the honest speech tucked inside my graduation robe, steadier than it's been in weeks. 4 years of documented incidents rest in a folder in my bag, screenshots, time-stamped absences, a pattern of neglect made undeniable through simple documentation. As my name is announced, I rise, the pendant warm against my skin. The camera pans across the audience, lingering meaningfully on 3 prominently empty chairs, the Whitmore family sign clearly visible to anyone watching the live stream. I walk toward the podium, toward truth, toward whatever comes after. The university auditorium vibrates with anticipation as I approach the podium. Each step feels like a declaration of war against years of invisibility. My graduation robe, heavy with honors cords, swishes against my legs as I walk. The stage lights warm my face, but my spine remains ice-cold with determination. I place my speech on the wooden podium, its surface polished to a mirror shine. My gaze sweeps across the sea of faces before settling deliberately on the camera positioned at the back of the hall. The red recording light blinks steadily, my direct line to the family who couldn't be bothered to attend. Distinguished faculty, honored guests, and fellow graduates. I begin, my voice carrying clearly through the microphone. The formality establishes my authority, sets the tone for what's to come. I acknowledge the university president by name, thank the academic board individually, professional, measured, deliberate. The audience settles into a silence so complete I can hear the air conditioning humming overhead. They sense something different in my tone. This isn't the typical grateful platitudes of a valedictorian speech. The expressions in the front rows shift from polite attention to genuine curiosity. I take a deep breath. Today, I want to talk about what it means to be invisible in plain sight. My phone vibrates against the podium halfway through my speech. The screen lights up with my mother's name. I glance down at her message. Couldn't you just thank us like normal graduates do? Without hesitation, I lift my phone, display the message to the audience. This is what I received instead of their presence today. My voice doesn't waver. Not congratulations. Not pride, but a request to pretend everything is normal. A murmur ripples through the crowd. In the family section, Mrs. Fitzgerald and Mr. Donnelly, elderly neighbors from my hometown, who drove 3 hours to be here, nod in solemn recognition. They've witnessed this pattern for years. The projector screen behind me flickers with a notification. Someone in the audience has shared Madison's defensive Instagram comment posted seconds ago. My sister always had to make everything about her. Some of us have actual commitments. I turn to look at it, then back to the audience. When you speak your truth, those who fear it will try to silence you. They'll reframe your honesty as attention-seeking. They'll position their choices as more important than your pain. I pause, letting the words sink in. But their reaction doesn't invalidate your experience. It confirms it. The silence deepens as I grip the edges of the podium, my knuckles whitening slightly. I look directly at those empty seats in the front row, the placard with Whitmore family still taped in place. As I stand at this podium, looking at those empty seats that represent a lifetime of absences, I wonder, is forgiveness possible without acknowledgement of harm? Can family bonds heal if only one person is doing the work of repair? From the corner of my eye, I spot Hannah standing at the back of the auditorium, her phone held steady as she live streams. Her free hand forms a small thumbs up. Beside her, Daniel angles his camera to capture both my speech and the conspicuously vacant family section. They're documenting everything, ensuring my truth can't be rewritten later. Professor Jenkins sits in the front row where faculty members gather. When my voice catches slightly on the word family, she gives me an almost imperceptible nod. The corner of her mouth lifts in encouragement, the same expression she wore when I submitted my first article for the university paper Belief in My Voice when I struggled to believe in it myself. Their strategic positions throughout the auditorium create a net of support. No angle of this moment will go unrecorded, no reaction uncaptured. This isn't just a speech, it's testimony. As I conclude, the university president approaches the podium. His handshake is firm, his voice carrying clearly into the microphone. Miss. Whitmore's courage today reminds us that education isn't just about academic excellence, but about finding and speaking our truths, however difficult. He turns to face me directly. Thank you for that lesson. The applause thunders through the hall as I exit the stage, diploma case clutched against my chest like a shield. My phone buzzes again, before I've even reached the reception area. Madison's name appears on screen, not our parents'. Her voice sounds different when I answer, less certain, missing its usual edge of superiority. Ella. She says, I saw your speech. Mom and Dad aren't saying anything, but their friends are texting them non-stop. I remain silent, letting her fill the space. I'm driving to campus, she continues, her voice smaller than I've ever heard it. Alone. Can we talk? Face to face? As I consider her request, notifications flood my phone. Mrs. Baxter, who taught us both piano for years, Mr. Collins from the neighborhood association, even my mother's oldest friend from college, all with variations of the same message. We always saw you, Ella. We're sorry no one said anything sooner. The fortress my parents built around their behavior is showing its first cracks. And now Madison wants to meet without them. Yes, I tell her, my voice steady. I think it's time we talked. Madison arrives at my dorm room 2 hours after the ceremony, her cheerleading jacket wrapped tight around her shoulders despite the June heat. Her knuckles rap against my door with the precise rhythm of someone who rehearsed their entrance. You've embarrassed the entire family, she announces before I can speak. Her voice carries the practiced indignation of our mother's fundraising committee tone. Dad hasn't stopped pacing since your speech hit social media. I step aside to let her enter, noticing how her eyes dart to her phone, where notifications stack like building blocks. 3 missed calls from Mom and Dad flash across her screen. They sent you to clean up their mess? I ask, closing the door behind her. Madison tosses her hair back, the same gesture she's used since we were children playing in the sprinklers of our backyard. They thought you might listen to me since we're sisters. Her voice softens artificially. Look, they'll help with your graduate school expenses if you just post a public apology. Say it was stress or something. When I don't immediately respond, she sighs dramatically. You've always been jealous of me, but you'd never admit it. That's what this whole speech was about. Her final card lands with practiced precision. If you don't make this right, they'll cut ties completely. Is that what you want? To have no family at all? I walk to my desk without answering, slide open the bottom drawer, and lift out a leather-bound journal. The spine cracks slightly as I open it, pages worn from years of careful documentation. This might interest you, I say, placing it in her hands. Madison's expression shifts from confusion to shock as she flips through the meticulously organized pages. Each entry features a date, event title, and check marks under parents attended columns. What is this? Can I know? She whispers, though the answer is clear on the page. 4 years of high school events. I explain calmly. Mine, 42 total. Parents attended 9. Yours, 41 events. Parents attended 39. So. Her fingers trace the neat columns, landing on handwritten excuses beside each of my empty attendance boxes. Too tired. Work emergency. Your sister needs us more tonight. There are journals for each year of college, too, I add, nodding toward the stack on my shelf. Madison's mouth opens and closes without sound. She flips faster through the pages, as if searching for evidence that might contradict the pattern revealed in black and white. This isn't about jealousy, I tell her, my voice steadier than I expected. It's about being treated like I matter, too. I pull a letter from beneath my cap and gown hanging on my closet door. The graduate school in New York already offered me a full scholarship based on my academic record. I don't need their money. The words feel like freedom as they leave my mouth. And I don't need their approval anymore. Something shifts in Madison's eyes. For the first time, she looks at me without the shield of competition between us. I never knew you kept track, she says quietly. You never had to. The sun sinks lower outside my window, casting long shadows across the room when I make an unexpected offer. Daniel and Hannah are meeting me for dinner at Riverview in an hour. You should come. Madison hesitates, then nods. An hour later, we sit at a table overlooking the river. Daniel raises his water glass in a toast to my speech, his eyes warm with pride. Hannah passes fresh bread while describing a particularly moving moment from my address, her hands animated as she speaks. The part about finding your voice when others try to silence it? People were crying, Maddie. Your sister brought down the house. Madison watches our interactions like she's studying a foreign language. She barely touches her salmon as conversation flows around her, each comment revealing another piece of my life she knows nothing about. Remember when Professor Jenkins nominated you for that investigative journalism award last fall? Daniel asks, his hand resting comfortably on mine. Or the time you pulled 3 all-nighters to cover that corruption story for the university paper? Hannah adds, the dean personally called to congratulate you. With each story, Madison grows quieter. I catch her watching me laugh at Daniel's impression of my nervous pre-speech pacing. She studies how naturally Hannah finishes my sentences when I describe my upcoming move to New York. I never realized how little we knew about your life. Madison finally says, her voice barely audible above the restaurant noise. The admission hangs between us until her phone rings. She glances at the screen, then back at me before answering. Hi, Mom, she says, her eyes never leaving mine. A pause, then. No, I'm with Ella right now. Another pause. Actually, Mom, I think you need to listen to me for once. Her voice strengthens. Everything she said in that speech was true. I've seen the proof. The surprise on my face must be evident because Madison gives me a small, uncertain smile as she continues defending me to our mother. When she hangs up, the table falls silent. I feel neither triumph nor bitterness, only the calm acceptance of a truth finally acknowledged. They want a family meeting tomorrow. Madison says, setting down her phone. Dad sounded serious. She hesitates before asking, could I stay with you tonight? There's some stuff about being the golden child that isn't as golden as you might think. Later, as I prepare for tomorrow's confrontation, I carefully place my graduation honor cords on the table beside the journal's symbols of my achievement alongside evidence of their neglect. Tomorrow will bring consequences, but for the first time, I face my family without needing their validation to feel whole. Whatever bridges burn or heal in the morning, tonight I sleep soundly in the knowledge that my truth has finally been heard. The autumn sun filters through my window in a familiar dance of light, but everything else has changed. 3 months in New York, and my walls tell a new story. Instead of empty chairs and photographs, framed journalism pieces from the Metro Journal fill the spaces. My graduation photos show Hannah and Daniel flanking me, Professor Jenkins beaming from the side. I straighten my blouse, preparing for my first day as a junior writer. My phone rings, not my parents, but a therapy podcast host. We're recording in 3 minutes, Miss Whitmore, she says. I settle into my desk chair, notes spread before me. When the host asks about family estrangement, my voice remains steady, without the stutter that plagued me for years. Healing began when I stopped waiting for recognition and learned to see myself. I explain, the words flowing easily now. The absence of validation doesn't mean absence of value. After the interview, I check my email. The subject line makes my heart skip. Speaker invitation, Truth and Personal Narrative Symposium. My alma mater wants me to deliver the keynote address. 6 months ago, this invitation would have triggered frantic calls to my parents, desperate pleas for attendance. Today, I click accept without hesitation, marking the date in my meticulously kept calendar, now filled with professional goals rather than family disappointments. I run my fingers over the calendar squares. No more red X's marking parental absences. No more holding my breath waiting for maybe promises to materialize. The doorbell chimes that evening. Hannah stands in the hallway, overnight bag slung over her shoulder, Daniel behind her carrying a bottle of champagne. Surprise visit! Daniel transferred to NYU last week. Hannah announces, pulling me into a hug. We couldn't wait to celebrate your first Metro byline. We gather around my small kitchen table, 3 glasses catching the light. Hannah raises hers high. To seeing yourself clearly even when others don't. Daniel nods, adding, to your brave new chapter. I lift my glass, throat tight with unexpected emotion, and to building a family of choice when the family of origin fails. The glasses clink, a clearer sound than any validation I had sought for 23 years. 3 days later, a package arrives. Inside, a letter in my father's angular handwriting. I abandoned my own writing dreams at your age. He writes, watching you succeed triggered regrets I never acknowledged. That doesn't excuse my absence, but might explain it. A second envelope contains childhood photos I'd never seen me at 5, receiving a school award, at 7, displaying a story I'd written. My mother's note reads simply, I kept these hidden. I'm sorry. Madison's text arrives while I'm processing these offerings. Professor liked my essay on family dynamics. I cited your graduation speech. Weird, right? Talking soon? Our relationship isn't close but honest now. No longer defined by competition neither of us created. As I placed my father's letter in my desk drawer, neither rejecting nor embracing it, I wondered what true reconciliation requires. Is acknowledging past harm enough, or must there be consistent action to repair what was broken? And at what point do we accept that some relationships will never be what we needed them to be? That evening, I meet with journalism students I've begun mentoring. When Sophia shares her fear of writing about her difficult relationship with her grandmother, I recognize myself in her hesitation. Your truth matters, I tell her, echoing Hannah's words to me. Even when it's uncomfortable. I stand alone by Grandpa Henry's casket, the last mourner left at Silverton Cemetery. My fingers trace the rough grain of the simple wooden box while everyone else heads to their cars, relief evident in their hurried steps. The small jar of honey in my hand catches the late afternoon sun, turning the contents to liquid gold. Some inheritances aren't measured in dollars and cents, I whisper, the words carried away by a cool autumn breeze. The memory washes over me sitting on Grandpa's lap at 8 years old, giggling as he let me dip a finger into fresh honeycomb. The sweetness spreading across my tongue while he explained how the bees transformed nectar into treasure. That was before the family decided Honey Ridge Farm was a burden, not a blessing. Before they convinced him to let it slowly die. The attorney's office smells of leather and old books, a heavy mahogany desk separating Mr. Livingston from our small family. Mom adjusts her pearl necklace, eyes darting to the clock every few minutes. Dad shifts impatiently, his starched collar already wilting in the stuffy room. My sister Delia taps at her phone, not even pretending to care about this formality. Now then, Mr. Livingston clears his throat, unfolding the document with careful hands. Regarding the property known as Honey Ridge Farm, consisting of the main residence, outbuildings, and 2.5 acres in Silverton. Just tell us what it's worth so we can sell, Dad interrupts, his voice carrying the same dismissive tone he's used about Grandpa's farm for 20 years. Delia glances up from her phone. Agreed. Liquidate and distribute. Simple. Actually, Mr. Livingston peers over his reading glasses. Your father was quite specific about his wishes. He adjusts the papers. The property is to be held jointly by the family unless one member wishes to purchase the other's shares. Mom sighs dramatically. Who would want a derelict bee farm? It's been abandoned for years. We'd be lucky to get anything for it. The county assessment values it at approximately $95,000, Mr. Livingston replies. Delia snorts. Who would pay that for a collapsing farmhouse and dead bee boxes? I watch them, the way they dismiss Grandpa's legacy without a second thought. Something twists in my chest, a familiar ache of watching them undervalue what matters to me. Like the science fair project in 5th grade that Delia claimed she'd helped with, when she'd merely glanced at it before my parents showered her with praise. Or the way they beam with pride at her corporate promotions while referring to my administrative job as sensible and practical, their code for unambitious. What they don't know is that beneath my practical exterior lies 6 years of quiet rebellion, 6 years of brown bag lunches, thrift store clothes, and a tiny shared apartment. 6 years of saying no to vacations and dinners out. 6 years of watching my savings account grow while they assumed I was just getting by on my modest salary. I'll buy it, I say, the words escaping before I can reconsider. 3 heads swivel toward me, expressions ranging from surprise to amusement. You'll what? Dad asks, eyebrows raised. I'll buy your shares. $62,000 over 3 years. The laughter starts with Delia, sharp and dismissive. With what money? Your administrative salary barely covers rent in Portland. Mom reaches over, patting my hand. Honey, you don't know the first thing about farming. And beekeeping? It's complicated, specialized work. Their laughter burns, but I've prepared for this moment without even knowing it. I reach into my bag and withdraw a bank statement, sliding it across the polished desk. $25,000 down payment today, the rest in monthly installments. I keep my voice steady. I can sign the contract right now. Kanakalari. The laughter stops. Dad picks up the statement, squinting at the balance. $38,462.17. Where did you get this money? He demands. I saved it. For 6 years. I meet his gaze. Every paycheck. Delia snatches the paper. This is ridiculous. You can't possibly maintain that property. It'll be foreclosed in a year, and you'll have wasted everything. I turn to Mr. Livingston. Please prepare the paperwork. Miriam, be reasonable, Mom pleads. That money could be a down payment on a real house, not some fantasy about rescuing a dead farm. I straighten my shoulders. It's not a fantasy. It's Grandpa's legacy. Fine. Delia tosses the statement back at me. Take it. You'll fail, and we won't bail you out when you come crawling back. Then you have nothing to lose by signing, I reply, surprising myself with the calm in my voice. Mr. Livingston clears his throat. I can have the papers ready within the hour, if that's amenable to everyone. Dad looks at Mom, who shrugs with exasperation. Let her learn the hard way. An hour later, I stand outside the attorney's office, a folder of signed documents clutched to my chest. Rain begins to fall, gentle at first, then heavier, but I don't open my umbrella. The cold drops seep through my blouse, but I barely notice. For the first time in my adult life, I've chosen my own path instead of the one laid out for me. My farm now waits for me, broken and abandoned. Like me, it's been overlooked, underestimated, forgotten. But beneath the neglect, I know something vital still lives, just waiting for someone who believes enough to bring it back. I look up into the rain, letting it wash the tension from my face. A honeybee hovers impossibly near, sheltering under the building's small awning, its wings catching what little light remains in the stormy afternoon. We'll make it. I whisper to the bee, to Grandpa, to myself. Watch me. The following day, the second-hand pickup truck groans as I navigate the rutted dirt road leading to Honey Ridge Farm. Each pothole jolts through my spine, a physical reminder of what I've gotten myself into. The truck, a faded blue Chevy with more rust than paint, cost nearly all my remaining cash after the down payment. $8,000 left to my name and a property that looks like it's been abandoned for decades, not years. My stomach knots as I pull up to the farmhouse. The white paint has surrendered to weather, peeling away in long strips like discarded snakeskin. The porch sags in the middle, a toothless smile of broken boards and missing railings. Tall grass and wild blackberry vines swallow the lower half of the structure. What have I done? I whisper, clutching the steering wheel until my knuckles blanch. I force myself out of the truck, boots crunching on gravel and broken glass. The late April sun beats down, as I survey what's mine, now overgrown fields stretching toward distant tree lines, collapsed wooden structures that must have been beehives, equipment rusted beyond recognition. Something tightens in my throat as I approach the weathered shed behind the house. The padlock hanging on the door is new. Grandpa must have replaced it before he got too sick to visit. I fumble with the key from the attorney's envelope and push open the creaking door. The smell hits me first beeswax and wood, sweet and earthy. Dust motes dance in sunlight streaming through grimy windows. Tools hang on the walls in perfect order, untouched for years but meticulously arranged. A workbench spans one wall, jars of unidentifiable substances lined up like soldiers. My fingers brush over a leather-bound book centered on the workbench. Honey Ridge Journal, 1974 to 2018. I open it to find Grandpa's handwriting, neat and precise, chronicling decades of bee colonies, honey production, and weather patterns. I thought the Collins family sold this place years ago. I startle, dropping the journal with a thud. An elderly woman stands in the doorway, her silver hair pulled back in a no-nonsense bun, eyes sharp despite the wrinkles surrounding them. Mrs. Jenkins? Recognition flickers as childhood memories surface. I'm Miriam, Henry's granddaughter. I know who you are. She steps into the shed, appraising me with a critical eye. You were the quiet one, always following Henry around with those big eyes, asking questions. I nod, surprised she remembers. I bought the farm from my family. Bought it? Her eyebrows shoot up. Well, that explains why your father looked like he'd swallowed something sour at the funeral. Man never did appreciate what Henry built here. My laugh comes out hollow. None of them did. Mrs. Jenkins moves closer, examining the journal. Your grandfather created something special with those bees, had a way with them nobody else did. I don't know the first thing about beekeeping, I admit, the reality of my situation sinking deeper. But I couldn't let it go to developers. She studies me, head tilted. You need to find Thomas Hale. He was your grandfather's right hand for 20 years. Thomas Hale? The name sounds vaguely familiar. Ornery old cuss who knows more about bees than most books. Works part-time at Peterson's Hardware in town. She heads toward the door. Find him. He's your only shot at making this place work again. 2 days later, I spot him at the hardware store, tall and lean, with weather-beaten skin and steel-gray hair tucked under a faded baseball cap. He's explaining something about wood glue to a customer, hands moving in precise, economical gestures. I wait until the customer leaves before approaching. Mr. Hale? I'm Miriam Ross. Henry Collins was my grandfather. Indicia. His face hardens instantly. Collins' family never cared about those bees. 20 years of work, abandoned like yesterday's newspaper. I bought the farm, I say, the words still strange on my tongue, from my parents and sister. He snorts. Good luck with that, city girl. I pull Grandpa's journal from my bag and open it to the last page. A loose sheet falls out, a handwritten note in shaky script. Thomas knows the secret. Trust him with Honey Ridge. Something in Thomas's weathered face softens as he takes the paper, his fingers tracing Grandpa's handwriting. His eyes, pale blue and sharp, study me with renewed interest. You're serious about this? Not just looking to flip the property? I put down my life savings, I answer. I have exactly $13,000 left, a farm I don't know how to run, and a family waiting for me to fail. The next morning, Thomas meets me at Honey Ridge. We walk the property in methodical rows, his notebook filling with observations. He stops at each collapsed hive, occasionally salvaging a piece of equipment or frame. I don't have skills, I tell him bluntly as we rest beneath an ancient oak tree. Just determination and what's left of my savings. I can offer you $15 an hour. No favors, fair wages. We rebuild together or not at all. Thomas studies me carefully, the silence stretching between us. Bees know when someone's honest, he finally says. They can sense intention. Your grandfather understood that. Clace. He points toward a distant tree where something dark clusters against the trunk. See that? Wild swarm. Your grandfather's bees never really left. They've been waiting. The next week crushes what little optimism I'd mustered. The bank loan officer barely glances at my business proposal before rejecting it. Too risky for conventional financing, he explains, not meeting my eyes. I tack a calendar to the farmhouse kitchen wall, circling the date 10 months away when my first payment to the family is due. My phone buzzes constantly with Delia's texts. Given up yet? Ready to sell? You could still recover some of your investment. I ignore them all. Thomas arrives each morning at 7, teaching me beekeeping fundamentals between clearing overgrowth and repairing equipment. His patience never wavers as I fumble with smokers and protective gear. When he discovers Grandpa's queen breeding records tucked behind a loose board in the shed, his eyes light up. This is worth more than gold if we can resurrect this lineage. He breathes. Henry was breeding for disease resistance decades before it became standard practice. One evening, As sunset paints the sky amber and gold, we clear the final section of overgrown brush near the eastern property line. Water glistens in the fading light, a spring-fed pond I never knew existed, hidden by years of neglect. Perfect spot for the first new hive. Thomas says, satisfaction warming his voice. Protected, south-facing, near water and flowering meadow. 2 days later, we position the rebuilt hive near the pond. Thomas shows me how to examine the wild swarm from the oak tree, his movements gentle and precise. Look here, he whispers, pointing to a marked queen. She's carrying Henry's original strain. Notice the coloration, the size. I stare in wonder at the tiny insect, barely larger than the workers surrounding her. How is that possible after all these years? Thomas's eyes crinkle at the corners. Henry always said patience outlasts ridicule. He was right about most things. That night, I slept in the farmhouse for the first time. No electricity yet, but the spring water runs clear, and candles illuminate the kitchen, where I write in my own journal by flickering light. Outside, crickets sing to the moon while somewhere in the darkness, Grandpa's bees have come home. So have I. By the end of the summer, the FSA microloan approval letter trembles in my hands. $25,000. The number blurs as tears well up, but I blink them away. No time for that. We did it, Thomas. I passed the letter to him across the newly installed pine table in the farmhouse kitchen. You're officially farm operations manager now. Thomas adjusts his reading glasses, weathered hands gentle with the paper. His eyes scan the document, a smile creasing the corners of his mouth. Never doubted it for a minute. Rain pounds against the new tin roof, the steady drumming a reminder of how far we've come. Just last week, Thomas and I huddled under tarps while local contractors rushed to finish installation before the summer storm hit. Now we sit dry and warm as water streams from the eaves in silver curtains. Remember when you wouldn't even come inside this house? Thomas chuckles, folding the letter carefully. Said it was too depressing. That was before we had running water and electricity. I rub my calloused palms together, still surprised by their roughness after months of farm work. Speaking of water, the well test came back clean. Another item checked off. Outside, 12 new beehives stand in neat rows along the eastern edge of the property, their white boxes gleaming against the backdrop of Douglas firs. Each morning I walk the line, watching workers zoom in and out like tiny commuters rushing to important meetings. Henry's bees, thriving again. I slide the Honey Ridge Farm LLC registration certificate across the table, official as of yesterday. Thomas taps the paper with his index finger. Your grandfather would bust his buttons seeing this, especially those 64 jars of honey we bottled yesterday. The memory of our first harvest warms me from within the golden liquid flowing from the extractor, Thomas teaching me to strain it through cheesecloth. The sweet aroma filling the workshop as we filled jar after jar with wildflower honey. Premium quality, Thomas declared. Best he'd seen in years. My phone buzzes with a notification. The group text I sent inviting Mom, Dad, and Delia to the Honey Ridge Revival Day shows 3 read receipts, 3 gray dots, 0 responses. Thomas watches my face fall but says nothing. I force a smile and pocket the phone. Their loss, I say, the words sounding more confident than I feel. Later that evening, as I'm labeling honey jars in the workshop, my phone pings again. A photo appears Mom, Dad, and Delia, clinking champagne glasses at some fancy restaurant. The caption reads, "Celebrating our Delia's Financial Innovation Award. So proud." Mom's follow-up text appears seconds later. Our proudest daughter. Hearts and celebration emojis trail after the words like confetti. My throat tightens. Thomas, organizing supplies across the room, glances over as my phone clatters onto the workbench. Family? He asks, already knowing the answer. I nod, unable to speak for a moment. Thomas walks over, picking up a jar of honey and holding it to the light. You know something about bees that might help? They don't need applause to make honey, they just do the work. The phone rings 2 days later. Mom inviting me to dinner at their house. Just family, she says. Her voice carries that artificial brightness she uses when there's an agenda. Delia specifically asked if you could make it. Alarm bells ring in my head, but curiosity wins. I accept. Dad pours wine while Mom fusses with a roast that's clearly been catered. Delia sits across from me, designer outfit impeccable, smile calculating. So, she says after Mom serves the salad. The farm. Show me the books. I nearly choke on a cherry tomato. The The books? Financial records, business plan, projections. She ticks them off on manicured fingers. I've been thinking, this could be interesting if structured properly. Dad nods enthusiastically. Delia's been telling us her ideas. Makes a lot of sense. I could handle the finances while you do the fieldwork. Delia continues, leaning forward. Let's make it a Ross sisters venture. I know investors who'd jump at this. The family farm angle is marketing gold. Mom beams at her. Delia's business expertise would take this hobby to the next level, honey. It's not a hobby, I say quietly, setting down my fork. It's a viable business with a solid plan and a partner I trust. This Thomas person? Dad waves dismissively. What does he know about modern business practices? He knows bees, I answer, and loyalty. Delia's smile hardens. Miriam, be practical. You need me. I stand, folding my napkin. Thank you for dinner. I need to get back to check the hives. Their protests follow me to the door, but I don't look back. Outside, Thomas's truck idles at the curb. He rolls down the window, nodding at my surprised expression. Figured you might need a ride, he says simply. People only show up when they smell honey. A week passes. The reporter from Oregon Life and Farm arrives unannounced, camera slung over her shoulder. Your neighbor Mrs. Jenkins told me about what you're doing here, she explains, gazing at the transformed property. Mind if I do a feature? The article runs the following Sunday. Granddaughter revives Oregon's forgotten bee farm. The photo spread captures Thomas showing me his grandfather's extraction method. Our easy partnership evident in every frame. Orders flood in $9,400 in the first month, exceeding our projections by 30%. I established the Honey Ridge Heritage label, featuring Grandpa Henry's sketch of the original farmhouse. Thomas teaches me his honey extraction methods, passed down through generations of beekeepers. Each evening ends with us on the porch, watching bees return to their hives as darkness falls. You've got the touch. Thomas tells me one evening. Henry said some people have it, some don't. Can't be taught. The television flickers to life the next morning as I sip coffee. A local morning show plays in the background until a familiar voice snaps my attention to the screen. Delia sits poised on a studio couch, gesturing animatedly. As co-founder of Honey Ridge Farm, our family business vision integrates traditional beekeeping with modern, sustainable practices. The mug slips from my fingers, coffee splattering across the kitchen floor. I grab my phone, checking orders 3 canceled since yesterday. A quick search reveals why. Customer confusion about ownership. Thomas finds me still staring at the screen. Some people can't create, he says after I explain, so they take. Later that day, a package arrives. Inside, glossy business cards spill out. Honey Ridge Farms, Delia Ross, CEO. The extras on farms, like a deliberate distortion of my grandfather's legacy. We should confront her publicly, Thomas suggests, anger tightening his usually calm features. Set the record straight. I run my finger over Grandpa's sketch on our honey label. No, we'll let Honey Ridge speak for itself at the Harvest Festival. That afternoon, I called our printer. The new labels arrived 3 days later, identical, except for one subtle addition beneath the farm name: independent, family-free ownership, since 1974. Thomas reads it and laughs for the first time in days. Henry would have loved that. I stick the label on our first festival jar, sunlight catching the golden honey inside. Let's see her try to claim this now. The night before the Harvest Festival in October, I apply a small dot of beeswax to seal each of the handwritten labels on our special sage blend honey jars. Thomas had found Grandpa Henry's formula tucked between the pages of his beekeeping journal last month. When we sampled it, the complex flavor took me straight back to summer evenings on his porch. Hand me that wood polish, Thomas says, buffing the aged wooden sign that once hung over Grandpa's roadside stand. Honey Ridge Farm, Est. 1974, gleams in the workshop light, the letters almost singing with fresh oil. I slide over the cloth. The booth looks perfect. Not done yet. Thomas reaches behind the workbench and produces a small brass plaque he's mounted to the bottom of the sign. It reads, Miriam Ross, owner and beekeeper. My throat tightens. Thomas. Henry would be proud of the real owner. Thomas taps the edge of an envelope on the workbench. Speaking of which. I open it, hands trembling slightly. It's the final bank transfer receipt, the remaining payment to my family, delivered 3 months ahead of schedule. The deed transfer paperwork sits beside it, ready for tomorrow's notary appointment. We did it, I whisper. Thomas nods. You did it. A newspaper clipping sits nearby. Local entrepreneur revives family legacy, with my photo beside the rebuilt hives. The accompanying booth application lists just 2 names, Miriam Ross and Thomas Hale. Get some sleep, Thomas says, returning to his polishing. Tomorrow's your day. Morning arrives with unexpected brilliance. The festival grounds already swarm with activity as we set up, our rustic booth standing out among the sleek commercial displays with their digital signage and uniformed staff. Over here, calls a reporter from the Silverton Record, notebook in hand. Can you tell us about your family business revival? Before I can answer, Thomas gently steers her toward our display. Wait till you taste this, he says, offering a sample of our heritage blend. Traditional method, no heat processing, no industrial filters. The woman's eyes widen at the first taste. That's remarkable. The crowd grows steadily, pulling in curious onlookers who form a line 6 people deep. Thomas demonstrates an old-fashioned extraction technique while I handle transactions, the cash box filling faster than I dared hope. Is this the local honey everyone's talking about? A older gentleman with a festival judge ribbon leans forward, examining our display. Yes, sir. 5th-generation bees. I offer him a sample of Grandpa's sage blend. I spot them before they see me, Dad's silver-streaked hair, Mom's pearl earrings, Delia's designer sunglasses. They pause at the edge of the crowd, scanning the unexpected throng around our booth. Delia strides forward, slipping between customers. Sorry, coming through. She positions herself beside me, extending her hand to a customer. Delia Ross. So glad you're enjoying our honey. The woman looks confused. Oh, you work here too? Family business, Delia beams. I handle the business side while my sister manages production. A festival coordinator approaches with a local TV crew in tow. We'd like to feature Honey Ridge in our broadcast. Could we speak with the owner? Of course. Delia steps forward. The coordinator glances at his clipboard. That would be Miriam Ross? Right here, I say quietly, stepping from behind the cash box. The reporter turns to Thomas, who's demonstrating how to test honey viscosity. And you must be the founder? Thomas chuckles, his weathered face crinkling. No, ma'am. Just the caretaker. For Henry. And now for his granddaughter. Delia edges into frame as the camera starts rolling. The reporter continues interviewing me about the farm's revival, and I catch Mom nudging Dad, their expressions a mixture of surprise and calculation. A customer points to Delia. You must be so proud of your sister's achievement. Delia's smile freezes. We're all very invested in the farm's success. When the photographer from the Agricultural Quarterly asks for photos, I casually unfold the paid-in-full land contract across our display table. The camera clicks capture Delia's tight smile as the festival judge returns, blue ribbon in hand. Heritage Revival Award, he announces, pinning it to our booth. Best traditional product and presentation. Dad approaches awkwardly. Congratulations, Miriam. We didn't realize you'd made such progress. Thank you. I keep arranging jars, not meeting his eyes. Mom hovers nearby, fingering the blue ribbon. The booth looks charming. As the afternoon progresses, local business owners slip me their cards. We'd love to stock your honey at Riverdale Market. The Westfield B&B wants to feature local products in guest welcome baskets. A representative from the Agricultural Extension Office discusses potential grant opportunities for heritage breed preservation. Your grandfather's queen breeding program has historical significance. We should talk about conservation funding. During a brief lull, Delia corners me behind the booth. You could have included me. Her voice drops to a hiss. I've been offering to help for months. I meet her gaze steadily. Like you included me in your successes? The words come out calmer than I feel. All those awards ceremonies I attended, all those congratulations I offered, you never once thought to share the spotlight. That was different. My achievements were individual, just like mine. I turn to help a customer. Thomas steps between us, sample tray in hand. Fresh batch just arrived. He tells the waiting customers, then adds quietly, family doesn't always share blood, sometimes just purpose. Delia's expression hardens. She rejoins our parents, who stand awkwardly at the edge of the continuing crowd. As they walk away, Delia glances back at the thriving booth, at the customers eagerly purchasing jars of honey, at Thomas and me working in seamless coordination. I exhale slowly, tension draining from my shoulders. "You okay?" Thomas asks, sliding another tray of samples onto the table. I nod, watching my family's retreating backs. I think I finally am. When December comes, the farmhouse windows rattle against wind that carries ice instead of air. I press my palm against the cold glass, watching the snow blanket Honey Ridge Farm in white silence. My phone vibrates on the counter, the hospital calling again. "Miss Ross?" Thomas's condition has worsened overnight. The pneumonia isn't responding to the initial treatment. My throat tightens. "I'll be right there." I grab my coat and the small jar from the kitchen shelf. Late season honey, amber gold and thick. The last batch Thomas and I harvested before his cough turned from annoying to alarming. The hospital corridor smells of antiseptic and fear. Thomas looks smaller somehow, oxygen tubes threading from his nose, monitors beeping their mechanical lullaby. His weathered hands rest atop white sheets, strangely still without their usual purpose. "You brought the good stuff," he whispers when he sees the jar, his voice scraping like winter branches against a window. "The wildflower batch. Grandpa's favorite." I place it on his bedside table, twisting the lid open so the sweet scent might combat the hospital's sterility. Thomas shifts, wincing with the effort. "January's the hardest month for the bees. You'll need to check the ventilation holes. Clear any dead bees from the entrances after snowfall." "I've got it covered," I say, though worry gnaws at my certainty. The syrup ratio changes in deep winter. 2-to-1, not 1-to-1. His breathing catches, triggering a coughing spell that leaves him exhausted. "Save your strength," I urge, but Thomas shakes his head. "The colonies need you now." His eyes, though clouded with fever, fix on mine with startling clarity. "Don't forget to eat dinner yourself. You forget when you're working." I pull out a notebook, writing down every instruction while fighting back tears. I promise to follow every step. Thomas nods, satisfied. I show him photos of Honey Ridge on my phone, the hives wrapped in their winter insulation, the workshop organized just as he taught me, the new queen rearing equipment we'd ordered before he fell ill. "Henry would be proud," he says, his calloused fingertip hovering over the screen, "of both of us." My phone interrupts with a text from Mom. "Thinking about hosting family Christmas at the farm this year. The property photographs beautifully in snow." I silence the phone without responding. When a nurse comes to check Thomas's vitals, I step outside to find 3 missed calls from Delia. Her voicemail plays with manufactured enthusiasm. "Mir, I've got a fantastic photographer who could do a professional shoot for the brand. Thinking we should revamp the marketing strategy before spring." An email notification follows, a business proposal for Ross Family Apiaries with Delia's marketing firm handling distribution. The sudden interest in Honey Ridge burns like winter wind against exposed skin. 6 months of silence while I rebuilt what they'd written off, and now they want to claim it. The nurse touches my shoulder. "He's asking for you." I spend the evening reading Grandpa Henry's journals aloud to Thomas. The faded handwriting describes winters from decades past, techniques for helping colonies survive bitter cold, observations of bee behavior during January thaws. Thomas closes his eyes, not sleeping but remembering, occasionally murmuring clarifications or adding details Henry had omitted. Mom calls again while I'm leaving the hospital. "We need to discuss Christmas plans. Your father thinks." "I can't talk now," I interrupt. "I need to check the hives during this snowstorm." "In this weather? That's ridiculous." "The bees don't care what's ridiculous. They need me." I hang up, driving straight to Honey Ridge through thickening snow. I clear entrances by flashlight, check windbreaks, and adjust winter wrappings according to Thomas's instructions. My fingers go numb, but I work until every hive is secure. Thomas slips away 2 weeks after Christmas, during the worst January snowfall in 15 years. I'm holding his hand when his breathing changes, slows, stops. The hospital window shows a world transformed into white, as if the snow might soften the sharp edges of loss. We hold a small memorial service in the farm workshop once the roads clear. Just a handful of local beekeepers, Mrs. Jenkins from next door, and the hardware store owner who'd extended credit during our lean months. No family, though I'd sent the details. I hang Thomas's worn beekeeper's hat on the wall beside Grandpa's photograph. The 2 men who believed in me when no one else would. Not everyone born family stays family. I whisper to the empty workshop after the others leave. Winter solitude settles over Honey Ridge like another layer of snow. I care for the bees alone, learning to trust my instincts without Thomas's guidance. Each morning I check every hive, my routine meticulous, finding comfort in the methodical work. While organizing Thomas's few belongings from the workshop desk, I discover a folder of handwritten notes, future plans for Honey Ridge, breeding programs for strengthening our queen lines. Expansion possibilities he'd been researching. His final gift, contact information for a regional organic co-op, with a post-it note attached, when you're ready. Spring arrives with unexpected visitors. I'm inspecting a newly active hive when tires crunch on gravel. My parents' luxury SUV pulls up beside Delia's sleek company car. There she is. Dad calls out, as if we'd parted on good terms months ago. We're here to help with the business. Mom surveys the property with appraising eyes. We've been discussing ways to modernize the operation. Delia has connections with distribution channels in Portland. Delia holds out a glossy folder. I've drafted a marketing proposal. See how I've positioned the Ross family legacy angle? My name fits perfectly in the executive leadership section. I close the hive carefully before standing to face them. Without speaking, I gesture for them to follow me. I walk them through the thriving apiary, past the expanded extraction room, to the workshop where Thomas's memorial sits alongside Grandpa's. Honey Ridge isn't a family business. I say finally, my voice steady. It's my promise to two men who believed in me. I point to Thomas's hat, to Grandpa's photograph. They taught me that some things aren't measured in dollars or corporate connections. They're measured in honest work and keeping your word. Dad starts to argue, but stops at something he sees in my face. Mom's smile falters, her eyes darting to Delia for support. You can't run this alone. Delia insists, though uncertainty creeps into her voice. I'm not alone. I gesture to the bees working in the spring sunshine, to the farm coming back to life. I never was. They leave without the confrontation I expected, Mom glancing back once with an expression I can't quite read. Delia storms to her car without looking back. I return to the hives, where thousands of workers continue their ancient dance of survival and creation, indifferent to human drama, focused only on what sustains them, just as Thomas taught me. I stand at the edge of the flowering meadow, watching 36 hives pulse with life as the summer sun warms the backs of my honeybees. A year has transformed Honey Ridge from a forgotten inheritance to the talk of Silverton County. Wildflowers sway in the gentle breeze, a living testament to what stubbornness and belief can create. Miss Ross? The school group is here, calls Melissa, the agricultural student I hired last spring. Her enthusiasm reminds me of myself at 8, wide-eyed in Grandpa's workshop. Coming, I answer, straightening my work shirt. The Sustainable Agriculture Stewardship plaque catches the sunlight from its place beside the extraction room door, validation I never sought, but welcome all the same. Inside the expanded honey shed, stainless steel equipment gleams where rust and cobwebs once claimed territory. Children from Silverton Elementary press their noses against observation windows as worker bees deposit their golden treasure. Their teacher, Mrs. Patterson, catches my eye and nods with approval. The same woman who taught me in 5th grade now brings her students to learn about ecosystems from me. Who can tell me why bees dance? I ask, slipping into the rhythm of the workshop I've given dozens of times now. A boy in a red baseball cap raises his hand. To tell other bees where the good flowers are. Exactly right, I smile, pointing to the observation hive where forager bees perform their ancient figure-8 waltz. Just like people share good news with friends. When the tour ends, a familiar silver sedan pulls into the drive. My stomach tightens as Delia steps out, her designer heels sinking slightly into the gravel. She's alone this time, no parents flanking her like twin shields. Your workshop looked impressive, she says, glancing around the property with new eyes. National Organic Certification. Your name in that agriculture magazine. Not bad for a dead bee farm. I don't rise to the bait. Thanks for coming. What can I do for you? She fidgets with her car keys. I should have supported you from the start. The words hang between us, unexpected and tentative. I wait, letting silence draw out what lies beneath. I was jealous. She continues, swallowing hard. Of your independence, your courage to just leap. You built something real while I've been chasing promotions that don't matter. Her admission washes over me without the vindication I once imagined. Instead, I feel only the weight of wasted years. Want a tour? I offer, gesturing toward the apiary. We walk the rows of white hives named for constellations, Grandpa's way of mapping his world. The tension between us thaws with each step. These are Thomas's modifications, I explain, showing her the ventilation system he designed before his passing. He changed the whole game for winter survival rates. Mom and Dad never mention him, Delia says quietly, like they want to forget anyone who proved them wrong. Sunlight catches in her hair the same shade as mine as she stops to watch bees return laden with pollen. For a moment, I glimpse the sister I might have had. I was thinking we could start over, she suggests. Sister to sister. No business, just family. The old Miriam would have jumped at this olive branch, starved for approval. But the woman who coaxed Grandpa's queens back to life knows better now. Family isn't taken, Delia. It's earned. Her face falls slightly, but she nods. Fair enough. At the honey house, I hand her a small jar with a special gold label. Grandpa's sage blend. We found his recipe in the old journals. She studies the jar, then meets my eyes. Will I ever be welcome here again? You're welcome as a visitor, I tell her honestly. Not as an owner. Some things can't be shared until trust is rebuilt. After she leaves, I walk to the apple tree where Grandpa's wooden bench now stands restored. Thomas's straw hat hangs from a low branch beside me, my daily reminder of promises kept. The conservation easement papers sit in my lap, ensuring this land remains agricultural for generations. I open Grandpa's journal to the inscription I read each evening. Patience outlasts ridicule. Truth outlives lies. Golden light filters through apple blossoms as I watch my bees return home. Workshop laughter drifts from the honey house where visitors gather. 36 hives hum with life, each queen descended from Grandpa's original strain. Grandpa planted, Thomas tended. I just learned to believe, I whisper to the fading day. Across the field, jars of honey catch sunset light through the workshop window, transforming ordinary glass into vessels of liquid gold. And good things, they always find their way back.